down between countries. It's good for trade if we can be able to sell our produce, right across the United Kingdom, in fact, right across the European Union. So we are against Brexit and have done everything we possibly can for the last 3.5 years to try and stop it. And I think there's a big opportunity with this election by voting for the Liberal Democrats to stop Brexit. But for exactly the same reasons that we oppose Brexit, we also oppose independence, because independence involves putting up barriers. It involves potentially a border at Gretna and at Berwick. The First Minister can't rule that out. There's also issues over the currency, compensation arrangements. I mean, the complications would be immense. In fact, Brexit would just be a small taster of what we would get with independence. So that's why it's really important that we try and use this election, because Nicola Sturgeon's put it as our top priority, but to use this election to stop independence as well as stopping Brexit. And there's only one party in Scotland that's offering that, and that's the Liberal Democrats. Every other party is either in favour of Brexit or in favour of independence or can't make up their mind. And that's why the Liberal Democrats are seeing their own level of support in this election.
So, Willie, I mean, I hear what you say, but the majority of the country voted for Brexit. But if you're going to go down the route of remaining, and surely, what about the say of those people that voted that they wanted to leave Europe?
Yeah, no, I do understand, and I respect the reasons why they voted for Brexit. The problem was back in 2016 we didn't have a particularly precise perspective, which is why the Brexiteers in Parliament have been spending the last 3.5 years arguing amongst themselves as to what Brexit actually means. They couldn't agree from one day to the next what it was supposed to be. So if they couldn't agree, I don't know how everybody else was supposed to know what it meant back in 2016. And that's why, if the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, is confident about his Brexit deal, why not put it back to the people for them to decide whether it's good enough for our country? And I don't think it is. I mean, every government assessment of any option on Brexit shows the country would take an economic hit, and I don't think we can afford to take an economic hit, especially when people are already finding it difficult to make ends meet with low wages and high costs. And that's why we really need to stop Brexit, and that's why I want to give people the opportunity to change their mind, to say that the deal's not good enough, it's not what they were sold back in 2016, and stop Brexit.
So would you offer a second referendum in terms of Brexit?
I think that's the democratic way out of it. I think that would be a sensible way to proceed. I think having this what we would call a people's vote. It's not really a second referendum because it's a different question. This is now that we've seen the deal, now we've seen the details, it's up to the people to decide whether it's good enough, whereas we were kind of voting on the principle of it back in 2016. So there's a different question, and therefore it's kind of like a confirmatory referendum is what they call it, which is an opportunity for people to confirm whether they do want to proceed with something now that they've seen the detail. And I think the detail was dreadful. And putting a border down the Irish Sea just for a start is bad enough, let alone the economic impact that we're going to be facing with Boris Johnson's Brexit deal. So that's why I think that people should have that final say through a people's vote.
So why not give the Scottish independence supporters a similar vote for a second referendum in terms of Scottish independence?
I think Brexit's proven that breaking up is pretty hard to do, that it causes economic turmoil, it causes division in the country. And what I get on the doorsteps is people telling me they've just had enough. They cannot stand the division anymore and want to put it to an end. And that's a good enough reason for me not to go back to the 2014 independence referendum, where we did decide to stay. We did see the details. There was a white paper. There was an inordinate amount of detail. We had a 3-year debate with Alex Salmond leading the charge for the SNP. So we knew what we were voting for when we rejected it. You couldn't say that about the Brexit referendum. And that's why I think we need to move on. We need to stop Brexit. We need to stop independence because it would add just to the woes that we're currently facing. And we need to move on to try and build that brighter country that we want for our future. So, investing in trying to deal with mental health problems in our society, but also the climate emergency.
Okay, thank you, Willie. Just one couple of other questions. I mean, recently we've seen candidates deselected due to anti-Semitic or Islamophobic rhetoric. How is your party dealing with such hatred, and what are they doing to root it out?
I don't think we've had any issues in this campaign. That's not to say we've not had issues before. I'm sure we have. But we try to create a culture in our party where that kind of behaviour is just not tolerated. And people are just not welcome in our party if they have those beliefs. I'm afraid to say that Jeremy Corbyn has not got on top of the anti-Semitism problem in his party, and it's certainly the case that Boris Johnson has hardly even started on the problem with Islamophobia within the Conservative Party. And we've seen a number of candidates right across the board, including the SNP, who've had candidates suspended as a result of their quite strong and unpleasant views. And I'm pleased to say that we've not had those views because we work really hard to make sure that people don't represent us if they've got those views. That's not to say that people don't slip through the net. But fortunately in this campaign, we've not had that because I think our procedures are pretty robust because we are a party of tolerance, of internationalism, of fairness, of making sure that we stamp out intolerance and racial attitudes that have been expressed by others. And that's why it's really important that we have got a firm and strenuous process that stops that from happening.
Some of the watchdogs that are specifically monitoring things like anti-Semitism and Islamophobia will argue that one of the things that breeds Islamophobia is due to underrepresentation of ethnic minorities within all facets of life. But what about yourselves? I mean, all the parties are underrepresented in terms of minority communities. So what are you doing to address that?
I've made it a particular mission of mine to try and deal with this. I mean, we don't have enough women, for starters, in our parliamentary representation, and we don't have enough from ethnic minorities either. We've been working really hard to reach out, and we've been successful in some regards of identifying people who will stand in future elections. But it's really important to me that if we are an internationalist, tolerant, generous party, then I think we need to try to look and act and feel like the people that we're seeking to represent, and that's why it's really important. We've got a more diverse party right across the United Kingdom with Chuka Amuna and Luciana Berger, who joined us from the Labour Party just recently, Sam Kima from the Conservatives, and that's brought greater diversity into our parliamentary representation at Westminster, and I want to spread that right across the party, including in Scotland. It's a particularly important factor for me ever since I became leader, and it's something that the Liberal Democrats will constantly strive to improve.
But here in Scotland, we do have a particular problem because I don't know if any candidates from ethnic minorities are standing for the Liberal Democrats or even councillors. I mean, would you happen to know if there's any ethnic minority or members of the ethnic minority that are already in elected positions or even candidates?
No, we don't. We had our deputy leader through in East Dunbartonshire was from an ethnic minority up until just recently. But it's something that I'm determined to change. I want more people from diverse backgrounds. And if any of your listeners are interested in politics, they should contact me once they've heard this, because our door is open. I want to get more people involved in our party and to see them in publicly elected positions, whether that's councillor all the way up to MP or MEP, and in the Scottish Parliament too. I'm desperate to see this change, and I genuinely do believe that it's important that we make changes on this front.
Okay, thank you, Willie.